Because the soul has a natural inclination and thirst for life experience, these abstract, novel, brand new, the soul sees intrinsic value in all of these new types of experiences. And so when you're a man who is dedicated to his mission, whatever that mission is, because a lot of the times the mission is that of no mission. Like the full Sackian men who are on this channel, you're very fully aware that the full Sack philosophy is that of no philosophy. And so what that means is that you let go of techniques, you let go of these systems, and yet you only operate in systems that help you get out of systems, because that's the only way a system is going to be worth anything, is if it helps you get out of systems. If you look at the education system, if you look at the public government and the private government, the shadows in the background who we don't even know who our enemies really are, really. And you look at these religionists and you look at the healthcare system, they're all designed to keep you in the matrix or in the simulation, whatever you want to call it. They're all designed to make you, fiat currency is another one. But you know what's very strange is women are an extension of a lot of these systems. And so women may like you, and she might like you, but she's hunting you. Now, I mean this is a double entendre in a way, because in one sense, women will hunt you when they like you, of course, because they want you. Women are really not so different from men when it comes to the superficiality of attraction. I've never in my life seen more women attracted to me than when I was fit, and still am, of course. I'm not like, I'm no Brad Pitt from Troy, in that movie just yet, but I am in the best shape of my life and have continued to maintain that and getting better and, doing different things in the gym. I'm still celibate. I've been celibate for 5 years. I've been on semen retention for over 4 years. No relapses. Okay, when people say, "Well, I've been on semen retention for 2 years" or whatever, sometimes they don't they don't talk about the relapses that they did, which is fine. I just think it's a bit deceptive because they're still aware of the practice and they're still practicing the practice. But I want to make sure I'm differentiating the practice of semen retention and the relapses, because there is a difference. But anyway, when I'm fit, celibate, focused on building my business and building my assets, acquiring cash flow, acquiring a healthy body, keeping a healthy body, all of these things, doing what I was meant to do, like my mission. But even then, I let go of the attachment to the mission. That's when women hunt me the most. And I can feel it. Like, I notice them, but I don't really care to act like I'm noticing them. Like, I see them in the peripheral vision, but I'm not like, I'm not making it obvious, because I just don't need to. I'm just aware of everything. I'm aware of the fine details without even really trying to anymore. And it's not like I'm gonna know everything all the time, even though it feels like that sometimes. It feels like that a lot of the times when I'm working with individuals, whether it's in my Godlike Mastery or in the Regal Academy. And it's like, when I'm working with these initiates and members of the community, it's like I can sense things before they happen, but I'm not even aware of how God, the soul of existence, is working through me to fulfill these people's yearnings for knowledge or yearnings for insight, But women will hunt you. And don't get it twisted. You don't need to be like the ultimate, creme de la creme type of a man as far as the ideal. You just need to be the best version of yourself. And that requires you to have your physical domain on point, your emotional and intellectual domain on point, and your spiritual domain on point. This is exactly what I go through with the Godlike Mastery system for individuals. This is a very high level mastery system I'm not the master, I'm not the educator, but I'm the godlike mastery education itself. And so what I do is for 3 months, I usually have a physical domain for 1 month, the emotional and intellectual domain for 1 month, and then in the final month, there's a spiritual domain. Only in the spirit of this time, only about 45% of the people are making it to week 12 and beyond. Because week 10, week 11, those are the trickiest parts for most people. And the reason being is because everything in the physical and the emotional domain are extremely tangible. Everything gets done immediately. You can see tangible results immediately. With the spiritual, it's not like that. And so the more you cultivate your spirit, the more you are grounded in your spirit, the more that women are drawn to the sexuality of your spirit. Okay? Have you seen like these really unattractive men on the outside, objectively unattractive men, so to speak? You know, they just don't really look like they have it, whatever it is. And you're looking at the woman who's more attractive than him, and you're thinking to yourself, this doesn't make any sense. This doesn't make any sense at all. And yet, for some reason, women are just drawn to him. You know, they love being around this type of a man because he just tells them what to do, and he's kind of bossy, and he's not really controlling, but he's controlling the situation. And if they don't want to fall in line, then he just lets them go. He's like, okay, well, if you don't want to be here, then this is the way it's going to be. If you're going to be here, go ahead. Go somewhere else. Women love that, though. They love the fact that a man is able to stand his ground and just be who he wants to be and be able to walk away. Like, don't ever underestimate the power of walking away, because that in of itself is going to draw them toward you. Now, the whole point of this, you know, everything is, it's not necessarily about, yeah, she's going to be hunting you, right? Like, ooh, she's hunting me. Fantastic. I love the fact that she likes me and is hunting. It's not what it's about. You have to be very mindful that some of these women out here are absolutely extensions of the Matrix, because they are very agreeable. Women are hyper agreeable. The only ones that are, well, at least nowadays, they're not as agreeable, but women have very high potential for psychological manipulation because they know what agreeableness looks like. Like, agreeable people in general, if you're agreeable and conscientious, then you're aware of how manipulations work. But if you're agreeable and not conscientious, but you're hyper passionate in your compassion, then you're going to be very blind and naive a lot of the times. But if you are conscientious and you're open to new experiences and you're aware of your own agreeableness, then you're able to differentiate how to become a little bit more disagreeable to actually be more assertive rather than just passive. Because when I was healing from narcissistic abuse, for example, I had to learn how to become more arrogant. I had to learn how to be arrogant. I didn't know how to be arrogant because for my entire life, I put "do not be like this" in a box, and I shoved it in the back of my mind, and I put, a big, red "do not touch" button on top of it because I was terrified of becoming a tyrant like my father. I was terrified of becoming a manipulator like my mother. Now, I'm not trying to denigrate my mother and father. I'm just simply saying that, because they did the best they could. I honor them for what they did and how they did it, because honestly, if they didn't do what they did to me, if they didn't violate me the way that they did, I wouldn't be who I am today. So in a way, I'm very grateful for that, but I'm not going to neglect the fact that a lot of things that they did were pretty crazy. Now, my dad was my father, however you want to talk about it, but my dad was he was capable of being a tyrant. Time was his tyrant, and which is kind of ironic because Kronos in ancient mythology, Kronos, Greek mythology, is Father Time, essentially. And everybody knows the saying, like, Father Time will get us all. Well, you have to think about this, right? So the only reason why my dad was capable of being a tyrant, because he was, time was his tyrant, he was incapable of letting go. He was incapable of letting go of certain things. And my mother, her tyrant was, I would say, affection. As weird as that sounds, her tyrant was affection, because she wanted to have affection. Like my mother, she didn't have the best childhood growing up. That's one of the reasons why I'm very, not necessarily like dismissive, but I'm forgiving of the situation, because this is crazy to experience, because talking about this, I don't want to always talk about these private things online, but sometimes it's useful to use these personal experiences as a way to be a teaching, right? So what I'm saying is that my mother, her tyrant was affection. And so the way that she would try to manipulate people was through affection. It's the same thing with my dad, but with time. His tyrant was time. And so he tried to manipulate people through time. This is actually, quite ironically, very archetypal when it comes to psychological archetypes. But one thing in particular was that this is not the time to dismiss the happenings of our own life, because one thing that you must know is that anything done by you in the past can be undone by you in the future or in the present moment, because time is not linear. For the Regal Change old timers who are aware of the Regal timeline theory, time is not linear, okay? So when these women who, right now, most women, their tyrant is entitlement, okay? So they are living through entitlement, and they're forcing other people to be entitled to their entitlement. And if they don't, because I'm not somebody that just allows women to, try to do things with me where they can do what they want. They can try. And, if I'm in a relationship, which I'm not, and I don't really care to be in one right now anyway, not because I don't want to, it's just like I'm building momentum with what I've got going on, and I'm beginning to enter my prime years, where I know that if I don't do anything with my prime years, then like it's not going to be I'm not going to have the type of energy psychophysiologically in 15 years from now when I'm 45 that I do today. So I'm going hardcore, I'm going ham, I'm training like Batman in the gym, I'm working as a stoic philosopher who has an academy. And then I also, in my Godlike Mastery offer, I am the Regal Shamanic Alchemist who provides therapeutic practices and rituals. Like, I am being who I want to be, because this is the way that I want to express myself, and the soul of existence wants to express itself through the spirit of the time. So when these women begin to hunt you, when you're on your mission and you're actually doing things and you're beginning to level up, and then they come back and they're like, oh, it's like, yeah, you thought, bitch, you thought that you could come back, after trying to play these games. Man, it's so bizarre, because today, one of the big sayings that I'm telling myself in the gym recently, when I'm going through and I'm, getting to a point where it's getting tough, and those spiritual nuggets of wisdom are beginning to emanate, because there's really two ways that you can get closer to God and the soul of existence. One is physical exertion to the max. Go hardcore for as long as you can. And then number two is complete stillness and meditation or prayer. So more so meditation, because meditation is about noticing what it's like to be who you are. But yeah, these women out here, sometimes you have to think of them as extensions of the matrix, because they're going to be hyper agreeable in the way that they are with systems. Like, because when it comes to defense of psychological manipulation, women are very weak. When it comes to attack of psychological manipulation, women are very strong. So they can be easily influenced, but they're also really capable of influencing people psychologically. So one of the reasons why there's more women in the universities nowadays is because that's what feminism is telling these women. If you do this and you go into that system, everything's going to be great, you know? And so women are just believing it. You know, they're not thinking for themselves because, well, there's a system in place and it makes sense, right? But here's the thing. Women aren't smart enough, generally speaking, to discern whether or not, and most men have just, it's not that they're smart enough to discern, they just know that for some reason it's not the answer, right? They just don't know why a lot of the time. But women, they don't even know why going to college or, you know, getting a degree, getting this, getting that. They don't even know why they're doing it. They're just told to do it, and that's what they do. And so hyper agreeable people who are hyper compassionate but are lacking in their conscientiousness are going to be very naive. And so that's why they do these things. Whereas men, like a lot of men, the most disagreeable people are men and the most agreeable people are women. But there's a huge overlap in between. And something that I've seen even just with my Godlike Mastery offer, because the metrics that I measure through those 12 weeks are specifically related to psychological well-being. So things like self-sabotage, discerning energies, you know, energy levels, you know, how do you feel when it comes to your personal insight and guidance, those types of things. There's other things as well, but, you know, that's for the actual container of the system. But the system is designed to get you out of systems. It's not designed to keep you there. Like if people want to continue, that's great, but that's not the aim. The aim is to get such a high volume and a high quality timeline that you move out of any other timeline that you're on, whether it's a low value, low cost timeline, a low cost, high value timeline, or excuse me, well, yeah, even then, but the idea is to get on a low cost, high value timeline. You don't want to be on a high cost, high value timeline forever, because that can be very, like burnout is going to be inevitable at some point. Like, I don't know, these people today at the gym, there are some really strange coincidences that of course are not coincidences. They're more pattern convergence signals, but like it had to deal with men and women. Like the men were jealous of me because they saw that these women were hunting me. And I could hear them like, do you see that guy? He's not even looking at that girl. And she's like throwing himself at her, or she's throwing herself at him. Like these types of things were very prevalent today. And I just noticed it. I didn't want to do anything about it. I just noticed it. And the strange occurrences was like later, it was almost as if the matrix was working through these other individuals. And this other guy who I thought we were well acquainted, I had 3 strange experiences at the gym today. You know, I love the gym. It's weird, but I always got great stories, you know. That's like for the most part it's really chill, but man, I've always got there's never a dull moment, right? And I've noticed this guy, he was asking me certain questions and I was like, yeah, you know, busy life. Oh yeah, that's tough. So like, what are you doing? Like, well, just busy. Cause I could feel the energy was just, it was almost like he was trying to pry, trying to get information, trying to get an insight into my psychology and my psychological well-being. And I was like, man, they have no idea. Like some of these people know not to mess with us, but then some people, they have no idea that we are training like freaking Batman. We are going to live the truth and let die what is false. They have no idea. They have no idea. They think that we just show up and are awesome all the time and that we have everything perfect. Sometimes, have you ever noticed, you watching this, you might be very, you might experience this a lot where people will look at you and they're like, oh, they haven't had experienced any hardship ever. And all you've fucking experienced is hardship your whole life. Like your whole life you experience hardship. And now when you finally start to, calm down yourself, and you're at peace with yourself more, all of a sudden people are like, oh, well, he's never had to struggle a day in his life. It's like, bitch, all I fucking did for the first 2.5 decades of my life was struggle. That's all I did for 2.5 decades. Struggle, struggle, struggle. It was only until I let go of those timelines and those narrative structures that I was able to maneuver further into what I actually wanted to do and who I wanted to be. So be mindful of these women that are coming back to you, because she may like you, but she's hunting you. For better or for worse, you got to be careful, and it'll be up to your own discernment. So apply to the Godlike Mastery or join the Regal Academy. In the Regal Academy, I'm going through the 48 Laws of Power class right now. So I'm doing 2 laws per week, and I'm adding certain observational as well as execution tasks that you can do for each law. So that's going to be available for people that want to do it. I also have the Art of Seduction class that's going to be available until September 6th. We have weekly group calls in there. You've got a bunch of other classes available. We've got timeline videos, timeline information for the Regal Timeline Theory, whole bunch of stuff, and a whole bunch of tools and resources. If you're wanting like just kind of a basic regimen of weightlifting or, training or whatever to be fit, we've got that in there. But if you want more of like the one-on-one type of a thing, that's going to be more for the Godlike Mastery. But the Regal Academy is for people that kind of want to just learn on their own time and have a community to support them and hold them accountable. Apart from that, peace. Until next time, be blessed.